You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Wednesday, 2nd day of July 2025. Remember, 4th of July Friday, we won't be here. We'll be out waving our flags, wearing our flag pants, saying God bless America, flipping some burgers. Hope you join us. Thanks for joining us today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first live broadcast, that's our live training room. So to get in there, you have to be one of our traders or taking our 1-week free trial. If you have not yet taken your 1-week free trial, Michael will show you how to do it step by step when he joins us at the top of the hour. Now, when the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways you can join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go here to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In that email there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email and it will automatically log you into our platform. The benefit there is you'll immediately have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy. You can't join live, but you do want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. We're celebrating our 20th year anniversary. But you don't have to remember all that. Just youtube.com/CFRN. Now, if you happen to be new to our neck of the woods, we not only broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,800 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And as I said, if you're new to our neck of the woods, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. In fact, thanks to the power of YouTube, you can actually see how we've evolved over the years. You can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. Obviously, you're not going to watch them all. but it's a great resource to have at your fingertips. And again, you can see how we've evolved over the years. This is our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. At the top of the hour, Michael will join us, give us a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room. Then we'll do some live trading on the TradingView platform for a half an hour. But right now, we're going to jump into our daily devotional. That's where we start each and every day. Now, we're in day 6 of 10 on this topic, the holy hustle, embracing a work hard, rest well life. Today's scripture is Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 9, and I'm going to share it from the Message translation. Speak up for the people who have no voice, for the rights of all the misfits. Speak out for justice. Stand up for the poor and destitute. Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 9. If you've seen the movie Monsters Incorporated, you know what I mean when I say the journey I've been on has felt like the climactic scene of that movie. Mike, Sully, and Boo are dangling from the conveyor belt, filled with thousands of doors, but they can't open just any door. Walking through the wrong door could put them in a blizzard or in the heat of a desert. Opening the right one would take them home. So they hang on with all their strength, fighting the enemy who sought to distract and destroy, until they can reach the one door they know means safety and security. The internet gives us the ability to see the doors God is opening for other people around the world. And we lose sight of the one door God wants us to step through in faith. Not every door is meant for us. Not every door leads us home. I'd spent a long time in a tight grip survival mode. Found a job to make ends meet, got married, functioned under the high-stress version of the world's definition of hustle. Was fired. Actually, I did the firing. And then would move on to the next thing. And then I started my own businesses, plural. Said yes to a ministry position that was intense and wonderful and god-awful lonely. Resigned, scrambled again, and now here we are, having a broadcast about the wonderful world of trading. I'd spent so much time trying not to get hit by closing doors that I had lost the ability to see the open doors God was putting in my path. As I started to learn how to let go of the crazy conveyor belt of options and stepped back from striving, God showed me an idea that changed everything. I was leaving the office one day, and I looked across the street. There was a little house, more of a cottage. Had a for rent sale on the sign out front. And God spoke to me. I called the realtor and I rented the house. Went home and told my wife, and she says, "Are you crazy? We already have a house." I said, "I know, honey, but I just couldn't stop myself." Turns out that was our first home for battered women and abused children. We got a lot of good use out of that. It went from being an empty cottage in need of some fixing, some TLC. Within 2 weeks, the floor was covered with 13 women and their children, safe from domestic violence. You see, here in Phoenix, we have a few big federally funded shelters for battered women and abused children. But I had learned that there was typically no room at the end, INN. One of them, and I'll call their name, Chrysalis, they had $1 million federal budget. Guess how many beds they had? 13. It took them $1 million a year to care for 13 women and children who would come and go, right? We did it on a wing and a prayer. We did not want the government's money because we did not want them to tell us that we could not tell these women and children about the good news. That Jesus had come to set the captives free, and that's exactly what they were. They were captives in their own homes because of some man who, well, let's say had a heavy hand. Since then, I've been looking for doors that would be good for me, would make the best use of my skills, the impressive doors that would lead to bigger and better. However, I was still in a season of selfish striving. I was working for God, but I was also working for myself. But God was faithful to continue to work in me. The lessons we learn, the skills we acquire, the people we meet, and the growth we experience can all be blessings. God has given us the free will to choose the doors we go through without worrying that we'll find ourselves outside of God's will on the other side. We may not find ourselves in the perfect profession or doing work that feels like it aligns with our calling, but God will meet us right there. And the first time I unlocked the door of that little house and walked inside, no clue what God was intending to do, I came face to face with him, God. That's a true story. Ripped from the pages of my life. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, give us the courage to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves or defend themselves. Help us to defend the rights of the poor and needy with compassion and boldness. Let our voices be used for justice and our hearts reflect your love in everything we do. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen and happy Wednesday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Currently the Dow's down 21 points. The Nasdaq's up 157. S&P 500 is up 15. The Russell 2000 is up 16. No movers, no shakers. And I got a feeling the Dow's going to follow the rest of the pack into the green. Maybe before this broadcast ends. We'll see. In the commodity basket, crude oil is up $1 and a penny, trading 66.46 last. That's a gain of a little over 1.5%. Gold's up $4.10, trading 54.30 last. Silver's up 28 cents, trading 36.68 last. Now that's 0.75% for silver. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei down 223 points, Shanghai down 3 points, but the Hang Seng up 149. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 10, DAX up 116, the CAC up 75, and for the CAC, that's basically 1%. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK. And at the moment, it is a mixed Radio Wednesday here in the US of A. So let's go first to the global news and talk about alligator Alcatraz. A new migrant detention center opened yesterday in the Florida Everglades, with President Donald Trump and Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis in attendance. Nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, the 39 square mile site located at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, which has been defunct for some time, can house up to 5,000 detainees. They originally said 3,000, and is surrounded by swampland filled with alligators and pythons, which officials say serve as a natural security barrier. The facility, composed of tents and trailers, was built within a week and is projected to cost Florida approximately $450 million annually. FEMA is expected to reimburse a portion of the cost. Officials say it will help alleviate overcrowding and expedite deportations. But environmental groups and indigenous leaders argue it threatens the Everglades ecosystem and encroaches on sacred tribal land. The site has prompted protests and lawsuits, with critics condemning what they call inhumane treatment of migrants. So let me address the first issue. After you and I are long gone from this place we call planet Earth, those alligators and those pythons, they'll still be there. And as far as inhumane treatment of migrants, man, this thing, I can't believe they put it up in 8 days. But it is in better condition and provides more humane treatment than most of the state and federal prisons that we have all across America. It's got medical, with all the necessary medical devices, and it's not meant for people to serve 10, 20 years. No, they should only be there a few days, a couple weeks, a month tops, until we can get them on a flight back to wherever they illegally came from. Originally planned in the 1960s, the area was once pitched as the largest airport in the U.S., 5 times the size of JFK, before the project was scrapped. Its massive runway remains and will now serve as a departure point for deportation flights. Now, I'm going to tell you who's really upset: the cartels, because they've been using those runways to land their drug smuggling planes for a very long time. Well, they're going to have to find someplace else. The U.S. Senate narrowly passed President Donald Trump's tax and domestic policy bill yesterday. The final tally was 51-50. 51 to 50, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. The revised 940-page document now heads to the House for consideration. See, the House had already approved it, but then the Senate made all these changes, so now the House has to approve it again. 3 Republicans joined the upper chamber's 47 Democrats to reject the package. Remember these names: Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, and Susan Collins from Maine. Paul rejected the bill over the added debt, and Tillis and Collins over the Medicaid cuts. The only Medicaid cuts there are is taking people off the rolls who are drawing Medicare and Medicaid in more than one state at the same time, or have no business being on the rolls to start with. So when you hear them talk about, oh, the Medicare and the Medicaid cuts, that is liberal propaganda. Pay it no mind. Out of a record-breaking 45 amendments considered over 27 hours, senators passed a catch-all amendment boosting rural hospitals' funding and phasing out federal subsidies for wind and solar energy. It just doesn't work. So what's in the bill and how much will it cost or save? Just go on the internet and you can read it in its entirety. The bill's passage reignited tensions between Trump and former former ally, current crybaby, Elon Musk. Musk suggested he will fund primary challengers to the bill's supporters and launch a third party. Trump suggested he would cut subsidies to Tesla and signaled interest in actually deporting him. Now, Musk was born in South Africa but is a naturalized U.S. citizen. There's more to that story than I can cover here, but I encourage you to look into it. Now, are you forced to recycle your garbage? Some cities, of course, like Phoenix, we have a black can for your wet garbage and we have a blue can for your recyclables. Well, the whole recycling thing's a scam. They don't recycle it. They ship it off to Malaysia, to China. And yesterday, Malaysia cracked down on plastic waste imports, raising concerns about where the U.S., especially California, will send its growing mounds of trash. I think Minnesota would be a nice place. Sorry if that's where you live. The new policy bans plastic waste from countries that don't abide by the Basel Convention, a global treaty regulating hazardous waste. The U.S. signed the pact in 1990 but never ratified it. Last year, the U.S. exported nearly 80 million pounds of plastic to Malaysia, with over 10 million pounds coming just from California. Since China barred imports in 2018 over environmental and health concerns, Malaysia has become a key destination for the world's plastic, whose production has more than doubled to roughly 1 trillion pounds over the past 2 decades, as recycling systems just don't work. U.S. recycling rates remain below 10%, largely due to contamination and mixed materials that make the process too costly. Much of what lands in Malaysia is either burned, releasing toxic pollutants, or dumped into already overfilled landfills. Thailand and Indonesia, which also saw a rise in imports after China's ban, announced similar bans on plastic waste earlier this year. Heads are exploding because now we know the truth with Vietnam. 1 week ahead of a July 9th deadline for tariffs to snap back to higher levels for U.S. partners. You guys better get on it. Trump said Vietnam's goods imported to the U.S. would face a 20% tariff, lower than the 46% tariff he had levied as part of his Liberation Day plans, but higher than the blanket 10% tariff currently in effect. He also said Vietnamese goods would face a higher 40% tariff on any transshipping when goods shipped from Vietnam originate from another country like China. That's how China's trying to get around it. They send the stuff to a different country and then have them ship it to the U.S. Trump said that U.S. goods exported to Vietnam would not face any tariff. In other words, they will open their market to the United States, Trump wrote on Truth Social. The deal would become the second the U.S. is struck with a trade partner since Trump paused those sky-high Liberation Day duties. That's exactly why he did it, to get their attention. In addition to a pact with the United Kingdom, the U.S. has also agreed with China on a framework to move towards a larger trade deal. But this July 9 deadline, it's coming, and it's coming quick. Trump said earlier this week negotiations with Japan had soured, saying he would force Japan to accept higher tariffs of 30 to 35%, or whatever the number is that we determine. Notably, that proposal is higher than the 24% Liberation Day level. Tesla stock actually climbed 3% today after the EV maker reported global electric vehicle deliveries that came in below Wall Street's low projections, but they actually produced more cars than expected. Well, if nobody's buying them, is it really a feather in your cap to make more of them? Tesla said Wednesday, today it delivered 384,122 EVs in the second quarter, less than the 389,000 projected by Wall Street analysts. But again, nobody's buying them. Sorry, Elon. Now, from Bloomberg, the leader of a hardline conservative caucus in the House today cast doubt on the prospect Donald Trump will be able to sign the sprawling tax and spending legislation by July 4th. That's the date we've been shooting for. We could take another week to get this thing right, according to the House Freedom Caucus. We're willing to stay until we resolve this. I don't think it's going to be ready by July 4th, he added, saying that the Senate should have left town after passing their version on the measure Tuesday. But Trump, who is determined to see the legislation passed by Independence Day, plans to meet at the White House today with members of the Freedom Caucus and multiple other groups of House Republicans. Wall Street's largest lenders boosted their dividends after passing this year's Federal Reserve stress tests, a hurdle that regulators made easier to clear by softening some of the requirements laid out in previous years. Oh, big banks. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said last night that he thinks the Federal Reserve could cut interest rates by September or sooner. At the end of this month, we have an FOMC meeting. Could it happen? When asked about it, Jerome said he couldn't say for sure, one way or the other. I think that the criteria is that tariffs were not inflationary. If they're going to follow that criteria, I think that they could do it sooner than then, but certainly by September, Bessent said, adding that I guess this tariff derangement syndrome happens even at the Fed. Yeah, that's where it was birthed. Microsoft is going to lay off nearly 4% of its workforce, the company said Wednesday, in the latest job cuts as the tech giant looks to rein in costs amid heavy investments in artificial intelligence infrastructure. The company, which had about 228,000 employees worldwide as of June 2024, had announced layoffs in May affecting around 6,000 workers. It was planning to cut thousands of jobs, particularly in sales. Now, the Windows maker has pledged $80 billion in capital spending for 2025. However, the soaring cost of scaling its AI infrastructure has weighed on its margins, with its June quarter cloud margin expected to shrink from last year. You know, Microsoft doesn't make most of their money from selling you Windows. And Amazon doesn't make most of their money from sending those little packages to your house. Most of their revenue comes from cloud computing. Did you know that? I probably already told you. General Dynamics, the submarine General Dynamics electric boat, which is the submarine making unit of General Dynamics, announced today it received a $1.85 billion modification on its previously awarded contract for Virginia-class submarines. Now, when I joined the Navy, I was going to the academy. I was going to be on a submarine, and I don't know what I was thinking, but they put you through a pressure test before you get out of A school, and I failed the pressure test. They put you in this room and they simulate a submarine diving. You know how when you're in an airplane, your ears pop, you got to hold your nose and blow and all that kind of stuff? Well, it turns out I had a permanently blocked right eustachian tube. And my company commander, or chief petty officer, he saw that I was in distress. He threw me down and started rubbing the right side of my neck, and I was screaming. And so, you know how they yell, dive, dive? I don't think he said undive, but he flipped some switch and the cabin began to go back to normal pressurization. They rushed me to sick bay and they said if I'd have been in there a couple more seconds, my right eardrum would have popped. So, obviously God had other plans for me. I never went to the academy. I was bummed out at the time I couldn't go on the submarines. But now when I think about it, I mean, I used to go out to sea for 90 days. But if I wanted some fresh air, I could go up on deck, walk around, do whatever. You don't have that luxury on a submarine, but you still go out to sea for 90 days. I don't think I would have gone crazy in that sardine can. So, God always knows what He's doing, even when we don't see it. Reuters, Israel's 12-day war with Iran last month has dented its economy, but investors and Israelis are hopeful that a U.S. brokered halt to hostilities could bring an economic peace dividend. With the country's neighbors, that has been a dream for decades. Such hopes are fueled by setbacks to Iran's nuclear program and the weakening of Iranian allies in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. In Syria, they're marching in the streets, waving American flags and saying, "Thank you, President Trump." Unlike here in America, where they're burning American flags and waving Palestinian flags. Some of these college kids, they got a pride flag in one hand and a Palestinian flag in the other. They're so uneducated, they don't realize that if they went there waving their pride flag, they get their head chopped off. Oil holds steady today. We got our inventory numbers after a U.S. stockpile bill. Remember, Biden depleted our strategic reserves and never refilled them. Trump is taking care of business. Del Monte. Who doesn't know Del Monte? Green Giant. Del Monte Foods, the 139-year-old company best known for its canned fruits and vegetables, is filing for bankruptcy as U.S. consumers increasingly bypass its products for healthier or cheaper options. Wonder what the Green Giant will do for it now. And last from Wall Street, Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Paul Atkins. Now, keep in mind that the man who once held that job he left to open a little hedge fund, and it became the largest Ponzi scheme in American history. And you know who I'm talking about. All right, local news. Well, it hasn't changed since Sunday night. I haven't done any Logic 247 alerts. I've been doing windows of opportunity instead because I'm thinking that I put out 20,000. See, Sunday night, oh, I don't have it on this chart. Sunday night, we hit 20,000 Logic 247 alerts. And over the 361 weeks, we averaged 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. So the question everyone's asking is, well, when are you going to start doing the logic alerts again? The answer is, I don't know. I'm thinking by drawing the windows of opportunity, a lot of people had difficulty understanding the logic alerts. Well, how do you come up with these numbers, and how do you figure? So now I'm doing it graphically, hoping that more people will catch on. I guess we'll see. 361 weeks, 20,000 individual handcrafted alerts. Now, long before we had a Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts, and they're different. The Logic alerts used to come out around the clock, 24/7, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. because futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session and vice versa. But the CTAs, they're published most days 5 minutes before the market opens. We all know today's the Wednesday session, but the Wednesday session began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So 5 minutes before the markets opened last night, all of our traders, all of our trial members had all of these targets: S&P, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. So when we go to the charts and you see these targets drawn on, just remember, if you're one of our traders, you had that info 5 minutes before the market opened. So with that, we can now go to the charts. And I thought we were about to get a turnaround. Remember yesterday we had an inside day? And we may go a little bit higher. But you see how the step line, it's really leaning heavy to the right. And when that black step line crosses from the left side to the right side of blue and climbing, like it did right here. See, this is a perfect example. See, the step line was on the left side, then it crossed to the right side. Boom. Price pulled back to the BBC. And then it did it again. And today's high is 62.70.75. I got it right on the nose. How about that? But we're at the high of the session, so we could close a little higher. Now, this area up here, what's that high? 62.77.50. So about 7 points higher than where we are now. But that's not the all-time historic high. The all-time historic high was put in on December 6th of last year. So we're real close. That may be where we find the resistance. I don't know. But I'm prepared for this retracement back to the BBC. Now the green line, it stands for bull-bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. When price closes back above the green line, like it did on April 24th, we're bullish and expect higher prices. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. We call it the BBC. And what's really cool is the pullback to the BBC holds more often than it doesn't. But then eventually it trades through. And then the pullback holds, and the pullback holds, and the pullback holds, and the pullback holds, and the next time it pulls back, will it hold? I wish I could tell you. I don't have crystal balls. So we'll see. Now, the daily chart, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, I don't trade the daily chart. I don't either. But it's where I go to get information. You see, institutional traders, the guys over at BlackRock and State Street, places like that, they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. Why? Has everything to do with account size. So I challenge you to spend 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever you're about to trade before you actually go to the smaller time frame and start trading it. Number one, you get a free look over the shoulder of the deep pockets that move price. Looks like they're buying today, huh? So you can fight the flow, or you can go with the flow. You tell me which gives you better results. But you'll only know if, I challenge you, spend 2 minutes with a daily chart or whatever you're going to trade for a month. That's 20 trading days, except when there's holidays. Once you do it, I don't think you'll ever go back. If you do, let me know. Honest, seriously. Okay? Now, not only are you able to see what the deep pockets are doing, but you're able to identify major areas of resistance, like right here. Well, first, right here. We call this months before it happened. And what happened? It sent price all the way back to the VBC. And then we knew our next major resistance would be this bearish cross. That's when the red line gets below the green line. And that was this day, where we had a doji. And the high of that candle lines right up with the bearish cross. Following day, we did press through. And now we're at the next major area of resistance, 7 points overhead. Now we had a little spot right here, which we have overcome. Okay, but that day created a doji also. We'll see how we end the session. And Friday's a holiday, so this is a 4-day week. We've got to get done in 4 days what we normally have 5 days to do. Now, all alerts, whether they're logic alerts or concierge trade alerts, they're created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just a time frame I chose many years ago, and I've stayed with it. Those targets that you were looking at when I showed them to you a minute ago, that's these guys right here. This was the opening candle last night. Again, our traders and trial members had the targets 5 minutes ahead of the open. So we opened right at the BBC. We ran up to red and falling. Now that one candle right there opened at 47.75 and ran up to 54. That's 7 points. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Now when price runs into red and falling, that's resistance, so it's going to send the market looking for support, which it found at the BBC. Remember, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Now these vertical lines, they separate today, Wednesday, here's Tuesday, here's Monday. Yesterday we drew this window of opportunity and it filled. It was a little raggedy at first, but it filled. The short window filled once, twice. So after we pull back to the BBC, we go up and we fill the long window. Now, I posted these last night, shortly after the Globex Open. These windows of opportunity right here. And as you can see, we filled it nicely and hit the long target. And then we ran into the zone. These are the weekly trading zones, the horizontal lines. We publish the zones for our members for the last 15 and a half years. When price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. And when price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. Only one of three things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the time, it's consolidation. Like that, like this, like this. 20% of the time, rejection. 10% of the time, the slice. That's when the 30-minute candle just slices through a zone like it's not even there. When that happens, typically, as the move runs out of steam, price will retrace back to the zone it sliced through and then continue in the direction of the slice. So we hit resistance, set us back to the top of the long target, which was also the top of that window, and also blue and climbing, support. So it notched us up a little bit higher, but there wasn't a lot of conviction in that move because look what happened. Price came back to the BBC, got below the BBC, filled the short window once, filled the short window twice, went down to the zone, filled this window that I published. Now I published these windows of opportunity in the discussion group and the trial discussion group last night with a timestamp. Okay? So I'm telling you, look at them and then watch what happens. And at some point it's going to click and you're going to go, oh man, how come I never saw that before? Well, because you didn't know to look. Don't be too hard on yourself. So we filled a short window and then we filled this short window. So we filled two short windows. Then we came back and filled the long window again. Now we're at a zone 62, 65/66. And our next major resistance is at the high of the session, 62.70.75, which you just saw on the daily chart. On the Dow, this was the opening candle last night. We pulled back to the BBC, didn't quite get all the way there, but buyers came in and pushed us up. We touched the window, then we fill the window, then we fill the window again. That was good for 20 points each time it filled. And we hit the long target, resistance. Now, the long target was based on this right here, where the blue turned to red. Yesterday. Okay, so now once we find resistance, we've got to go find support. So the BBC gave us support, the pullback held. We bounced right up to where, oh my goodness, blue turned to red. See that? And down we go, boom. And I had three short windows drawn. One of them I drew this morning, this one. It filled twice. Support sends us to resistance, the pullback held. Now price is trapped. You got resistance overhead at the BBC and support. When red and falling gets directly below price, it becomes potential support. So price is trapped right now on the Dow. The Russell. Here's where we opened last night. Ran up to the zone, consolidated for hours. Then we got a leg and a retracement, and then a leg and a retracement, and then bang, we fill the window. And that took us through the long target. We took out yesterday's high by just a little bit. Okay? We're always suspicious of just a little bit. So back we go to support. Pullback held, which sends us back to resistance, which sends us back looking for support. We spiked the zone, then we actually closed below the zone, and then we came down. See this little crevice? See how you got a wick sticking up and a wick sticking down? That would be the low of the session on the Russell. Support sends us back to resistance. We consolidated at the target. And now, like the Dow, we're trying to take out the high of the session. And it looks pretty convincing. You got blue and climbing chasing price. That's a bullish signal. Okay. Just make sure that you understand this high. If you're in a long trade, you want to be out before you hit that high, because it might miss it by just a little bit. On the other hand, it could rip right through it. Okay, the NQ. I drew in this window early last night after the open, and I drew in this window, and I published all of them in the discussion group with the timestamp. So we filled the short window, found support at the zone, which sent us racing back up, and we filled the long window. Now, 10 points on the NQ, that's $200 per contract traded. Now, we filled this window twice, so that's 200, 400, 600. Simple market structure. And now, what are we doing? We're consolidating at the zone. And take a look at the step line. See how it's hooking to the right? The longer we consolidate, that step line, black line, could cross blue and climbing. And if it does, then we expect a retracement back to the BVC. And really right now, this is support times 2, because you got the BVC and the zone. Crude oil. I couldn't find any windows I was comfortable with early last night, so I didn't draw any. Okay, if it's not there, it's not there. But I did put out a long target. This was the open. Okay, this was the opening candle, and we came down to the short target to the tick. And that's this low right here from yesterday. Market structure. Now, these targets, all of our traders and trial members had them 5 minutes before the open. So we hit the long target, ran up to the zone, to the tick, found resistance. The zone is 6645/6650. That sent us back down to this zone. We spiked the zone and came within a tick or two of touching the short target again. Support sent the market looking for resistance. We consolidated at the zone, and now crude is reaching up. It's at the high of the, it's just off the high of the session. Gold. This was the opening candle below the at the BVC. And so we dropped pretty quickly to the short target, filling that window of opportunity. Support sends us to resistance. The pullback held and sent us back down to fill the short target again. And then later in the morning, we filled the long window of opportunity. And there's actually still another window up here. It's already been filled though. That was drawn days ago. It filled yesterday. And last but not least, silver. Now, a 4-cent move in silver is worth $200 per contract traded. So we opened here, ran up to the VVC and the zone. That's resistance times 2. Sent us back to blue and climbing support. Sent us back to the BVC and the zone. And then we just kept bumping our head up against that zone, and then we came down and we filled the short window and hit the short target. Support sends a market looking for resistance. On the second attempt, we got through the zone, hit the long target, and we filled. So $200 per contract there, $200 per contract there. still, we haven't put in a new high yet, still 62.70, 75. It covers all the markets. Now, Michael's going to be here in a few minutes. He'll give us a recap of what happened in the live training room. Then we'll do some live trading, excuse me, on the TradingView platform. He's going to show you how you can take the free trial if you've never taken it. Now, about the free trial. 2 free trials per lifetime, 6 months apart. Don't take advantage of a good thing, okay? If it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, then you're taking up a seat that somebody else could be in. And yeah, we track by IP address, and we don't like to publicly embarrass anybody. But if you take advantage of it, we are going to bring it to your attention, okay? So, in the infamous words of Joe Biden, don't. To become a member, go to mytradingiq.com, watch the videos, read the content, then send an email to support@cfrn.net. In the email, just say, I want to become a member. Valerie will send you an info-packed email in return that explains everything it means to become a member. And she'll provide a link you can click to actually seal the deal. If you are a veteran, in the email you send that says, I want to become a member, say, I am a veteran and I want to become a member, so that the link she sends you will include a discount because we thank you for your service. Michael's here, so he's going to do everything I said he would do. When he's done, I'll come back. I'll finish telling you all it means to become a passport holder and then wrap things up with our good word for the day.
Excellent. All right. Should be looking at my charts now.
Yeah, let me get it centered up here.
All right.
Okay. Ready to roll.
Excellent. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd day of July, 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Just click on that purple button. And when you do, it'll bring you to this registry page right here. Now, on this page, all it asks for is your first name, your last name, your email, your phone number. Down at the bottom, gives you TradingView login ID. TradingView's got a big sale going on right now. If you don't have TradingView, click on this link. Go get TradingView. They have a really good sale going on right now. If you click this, it says to watch this video, which is you do have to do. It says to use this link right here, but I don't think you're going to get the discount if you use that link. So go straight to TradingView, tradingview.com, and get it that way. Okay. They have a really good deal going on right now that I don't think you get if you use that. So for right now, while they have that deal going on, do that. All right, hit register, and when you do that, we'll know you took the trial. We had a better day than yesterday, much better than yesterday. The markets were pretty good today. We went over something today that I hadn't gone over in a little while, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But on the NQ, we're up 71 ticks. On the Russell, we're up 2 ticks. And on the gold, we're up 49. On the ES, up just 4. Our final trade got us 4 ticks on the ES. That put us at 905 with 1 contract in the morning session. Today it took 9 minutes and 3 trades to get to $1,000 bucks. That was with 10 contracts on. And we took 21 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at 1,092 over 2 business days, averaging 546 per day. On the year, we're now at 156,557 or 111 business days. You see, there's that number doing 111. That number comes up a lot. The other day when you had 222. Anyway, we're averaging $1,410 per contract per 2-hour business day. And following the 24/20 blueprint, if you were to quit trading when you get the goal for the day and you were to add 1 contract per month, goal being $100 with 1 contract, and adding only after you've achieved $2,000 in profit per contract. Right, it's like last month was the 6th month, we had to make 12,000. The month before that was the 5th, we had to make 10. Before that was a fourth, we had to make 8. Before that was a third, we had to make 6. Before that was 2, we had to make 4,000, and before that was 1 contract, we had to make 2,000. So it would go faster than this if you did it when you actually got to 2,000. You'd be at a lot more contracts right now if you did it when you actually got to $2,000. But if you just go with one per month, it's a nice gradual progression. Anyway, if you did all that, you would only have to work 13.5 hours this year. You'd be up $64,127 and averaging $4,756 per hour gross. All right. That's if you did everything just like I did in the first few minutes. Now, there is definitely something to starting at 9:27. If you look in here, the number of trades that it takes me, the number of minutes. Last month, I think out of the 18 trading days we had last month, I think 13 of them were in the first trade. And I don't know how many were 3 minutes or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 were 3 minutes or less. 11, 12, 13. 13 were 5 minutes or less. And 14 were 10 minutes or less. All of them were under 15 minutes. So just pointing it out, there is something to it so far this month. One's under 3 minutes and one's under 10 minutes. But good stuff. Now, let's get into the trades that we took. On the gold, we started out on the gold. Here it is. Gold was one of our bigger winners today. And this is what I wanted to go over with you that I hadn't gone over in a little while. On the gold, this was our first trade right here. We bounced off the midpoint right there, and we picked up 10 ticks on that one. 4 more there to get us to 14, then 16 there to get us to 30. To break even, then 1 to get us to 31, and 5 to get us to 36, and 1 to get us to 37, and then 12. 12? Yeah, 12 to get us to 49. And that is where we stopped the trading. Now, did we hit all-time highs? I'm going to have to go check that in a minute. But on the gold, more trades, I just don't see them. We've been going into the oversold, not just the blue is what we're looking at, going into the oversold or into the overbought. So if you're above everything here, you're looking for long trades, you're looking for to go into the oversold and come out of the oversold. This is the only trade right here. Oh, that one and this one. 2 trades. That one right there, that one up to there, this one right here, that one up to there. So there was on the gold. Now, for anybody that's watching right now who hasn't seen this in the past, let me just show you a little something. If you look at the spreadsheet and you go back here, let's bring it this way. All right, and we go back here to December. At the end of December, right before Christmas, I decided I was going to change things around a little bit. Now you see all these big numbers. I decided to do that when we finished the 24/20 blueprint. All right, we finished that in August. So starting here in September, see how the numbers are frequently over 1,000, where they weren't quite as frequently over 1,000 in all the months before that, all the months leading up to it. It's because we had a little bit of a paradigm shift there. Okay. The first thing that we started to do in here, well, we introduced the trigger. Okay, and we started using the trigger. And then that made things better. This is just a little history lesson for some people who are in here for the first time this week anyway. And then at the end of December, I introduced the aggressive trades. All right, when we get into the week of Christmas right here, I started doing that. You can see dramatic increase. And that carried all the way through. And here, when the tariff started right here, that was, well, we had our best day of the year right there, our best day pretty much ever right there, $4,177 a contract. But so with 10 contracts on, that was $41,775 that morning. But this is the day that the tariffs went into effect. And so, the market started getting pretty wild and things were going well. But then we're starting to get larger leg lengths. So I started to do more conservative trades in here last month. Well, May and June, I started doing more conservative trades because we're getting longer leg lengths. But now, for some reason, it's starting to get choppy again. So the conservative trades aren't giving us, they're giving us good enough results. They're giving us great results. Compared to anything else, they're giving us great results. But but you get greater results if when it's choppy, you employ the aggressive method. Now, this is right out here. If you look at mytradingview.com, you go to trade rules. This is the number one, the most aggressive. You don't use the YBR. You have to have divergence between the blue and the black down here. All right. You enter when it leads into the overbought or oversold. Nothing else matters. If the blue goes into the overbought or oversold by itself, that's when you enter. You have to have the divergence. And you just enter. And that's it. Okay. That's the super aggressive one. If it gets choppy, then you can go right into that. You can switch right into that mode. The middle of the road is if you have the YBR on and you're on the aggressive going in one direction. All right. And then the conservative one is you wait for the YBR and you wait for it to come out of the overbought or oversold. So I want to introduce that back to you because we have been getting into a lot of chop lately. And if you just look at this, every time it goes into the overbought, let's shut this off. Okay. And we'll shut that off. So every time the blue leads into the overbought, you sell the open to the next bar. Every time the blue leads into the oversold, you buy the open to the next bar. Buy the open to the next bar. Okay. Every time it leads into the overbought, you sell the open to the next bar. So you would have sold there. Leads into the overbought, you sell the open to the next bar. So you would have sold up here at the top. Leads into the oversold right here. You buy the open to the next bar. So you would have bought the open to this bar right here. Okay. Now I haven't done this in a while. I haven't gone through this stuff in a while because the markets haven't really warranted it. But where I put the line is where you would be trading. All right. Now I'm not even. Do I have a horizontal line up there? I don't. Okay. I'm not. I'm going to do this. I'm not even going to look at price. Okay. I'm just going to put this line every place there is a valid trade. Using this super aggressive method. All right. Without even looking at price. I'm just looking down here to see when the blue led into the overbought or led into the oversold. And now I am going to give you some qualifiers to this in a minute. Okay, so let's just take this little piece from this. This is the last hour or so. Here, crunch it up a little bit more so you can see just a little bit more in here. Now, the places you stop out is when you get a flat spot. All right, that's where you're going to stop out when you hit that flat spot. So without even looking at price, right here, you would have bought. Right, you would have gone long. Oops. This is crazy. You would have gone long there. You would have gone short here. You would have gone long here. You would have gone short here. You would have gone long here. You would have gone short here. Short here. Long here. Short here. Oops. And long over here. All right, now without even looking at price, I can tell you which ones definitely worked out and which ones probably stopped. All right, again, without even looking at price, I can tell you that this one right here probably stopped out. This one right here might have been a break even or a stop out. This one right here might have been break even or a stop out. And that's it. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trades. 10 trades, 7 of them I know worked. Now, if this is all new to you, I know it worked because it went down and came right back out. You're buying the open of this bar. So you would have bought the open of this bar. Whatever that bar is, you would have bought the open. You would have sold the open of that, bought the open of that, sold the open of that, sold the open of that, bought the open of that, sold the open of that, bought, sold, bought. Okay, right here, you'd be buying right now. Do it right here. you'd be buying right now, the open of this bar. Okay, now I'm not looking at price, and this is the gold. I don't know what price is actually done right now, but you'd be buying the open of the bar. Okay, that's what you'd be doing right in there. So let's bring the price down. Now, some of you guys have seen all this in the past, but some of you have not. So let's crunch it up and we'll bring it down like this. Okay, do it this way. So you would have bought the open of that bar, profit. You would have sold the open of that bar, profit. You would have bought the open of that bar. Now you got to see what the high and low was on that. Right? So the open, let me see if I can do this. The open on that bar, nope, it doesn't do it if you have a drawing object on it. It was this one right here. Okay, so if I click on that, the high of that bar was 60.9, the open was 60.8, so that would have stopped you out. Definitely would have stopped you out. Okay, and this one right here, profit. And this one right here, the open was 51.4 and it went up to 52, so you would have had a break even on that one. So you can remove the on that one, that would have been break even. This would have been profit. This would have been profit from the open of the bar. You gotta remember it's from the open of the bar. That would have been profit. This would have been profit. It had 9 ticks in profit going up, so that would have been profit. Okay. This, you would have sold the open of the bar. That would have been 9 or 10 ticks. This, you would have bought the open of the bar, 9 or 10 ticks. This, you would have bought the open of the bar. And that, well, if you bought the open of this bar, it's not this bar you would have bought the open of, it's this bar you would have bought the open of. Okay, so that's still working. But the open of that bar was at 59.9 at a high of 60.5. So it did give you 6 ticks. So if you're on top of that and you actually bought the open of the bar, you had 6 ticks. You moved your stop to break even after 5 with gold. Okay. I just want to point that out to you because we're starting to get into some choppy periods again right now. And if it remains being choppy, we can just drop right back into this really aggressive mode. You can see right here, out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trades, we had 1 for sure stop out. A couple other break evens, 3 other break evens, and that leaves 7 trades that were clear profit. You only need 1 or 2 of those that are clear profit to get the goal for the day. All right. I just want to point that out because that is, you know, as the markets shift, we can shift with them. We don't have to, but we can shift with them. I mean, the alternative is you just don't have a whole bunch of trades. You know, that's what the alternative is. You just won't get very many trade setups. Another alternative is like we did today on the NQ. We flipped over to a slower time frame. I mean, a faster time frame to the 19 range from the 47. And that definitely ended up giving us some more trades. You know, before we flipped over, we only had 1 trade for 3 ticks. And then we did flip over, and it gave us a lot more opportunity. Okay. So I wanted to go through all that with gold. Now, the Russell today, we ended up with 2 ticks, and didn't have a ton of trades on the Russell. 2 ticks on that one, and I think we had 2 break-even trades. Yeah, it's a break-even there, and a break-even over here. And that is all we ended up with there on the Russell. Okay, that is all we ended up with there on the Russell. On the ES, we ended up with 4 ticks. We started out here with a decent trade on the ES. We picked up 4 ticks on that, and we stopped out on that one, and that put us at -6. Then we got +6 on that to get us to 0, and then we got +4 on that to get us to +4. Okay, and that was it for the ES for us today. All right, and now let's see here on the NQ. On the NQ. Oops. All right. On the NQ, we picked up 3 ticks. We had a break even there. We picked up 3 ticks on that one, and then we switched. This one, I know it doesn't look like a trade there, but that's because we did it on the 47 range. Right? That's why those arrows look so big, because they came out to 47. We picked up 3 ticks on that one right there. Okay. And then we switched to the 19 range. And then we had more trades. After we grabbed those 3, we ended up with a break even. Then we had a plus 44 to get us to 47. Then a plus 8 to get us to 55. Then a plus 4 to get us to 59. Oops, to get us to 59 and break even. And then we had a plus 12 to get us to 71. And that's where we wrapped it up on the NQ for the morning. Okay, but you see how it's kind of choppy in here? Let me show you this one more time. Those of you guys who are in here, put the ultimate slingshot down there. What you can do with this so you don't end up, and Dwayne, I don't know if you're still watching right now, if you stepped aside, but if you click on this and you move it to an existing pane above, so you don't have this extra panel over here, you can go in here and do pin to no scale like that. All right, I wasn't sure if that was going to make the lines move around or not, so I tested this. We actually have that running. The black one's over here. One's running to scale, so it's got the scale on the side, and one's running with no scale. You see the black lines are right on top of each other the whole time. So it doesn't vary the position of the black line by doing that. So did you guys see how I did that? You have the trigger down at the bottom, and you go in here and you add on the ultimate slingshot, and then you move it up. Go to move to existing pane above, and then click on the 3 dots again and do pin, scale, no scale. And that'll get rid of the stuff on the left. Okay. That is how you do that. And so if you were doing that in here, yeah, you would have sold the open of that bar, sold the open of that bar. You would have bought the open of that bar. You would have bought the open of that bar. Sold the open of that bar, that would have stopped you out. Bought the open of that bar, that would have worked out. Sold the open of that bar, that would have stopped out. Sold the open of that bar, that would have stopped out. Like I said, this does not work well when you have longer leg lengths like this, but it works great in the chop. So we didn't have a lot of chop. Back here, we had some chop right in here where it was choppy. You bought the open of that bar, which would have been okay. You would have sold the open of that bar, which would have worked out. You would have bought the open of that bar, would have worked out. You would have sold the open of this bar, would have worked out. You would have bought the open of this bar, which would have worked out to some degree. You would have sold the open of this bar, which would have worked out. Bought the open of this bar, which would have gotten you to break even. And then you had leg lengths again. So, you know, when you start to see flat spots in the overbought and oversold, that's when you stop using that technique. Okay, you see the flat spots, that means you're trending. Well, if you don't have those flat spots, you're not trending. And that's when you can switch techniques if you want to. Okay, I just wanted to point that out again because we haven't looked at that in a long time. Well, it's only been a couple of months, but it feels like a long time. Let's see. Well, here we really don't have anything right now. We're at the midpoint. We're above the YBR. We could have, actually, you could take a trade here on the gold where it came out of the oversold. You could take a trade right in gold, I think. Has it gone 5 ticks into profit from where it came out yet? It came out on that bar, so no, it hasn't gone 5 ticks into profit. So you could take a trade here, a long trade on gold. Be off the midpoint right here. This will close off the midpoint where it came out of the oversold right there. Okay. That is what it would be. And here it is. Here it is. Has a 15 tick stop. Okay. And the Russell is below the YBR. The ES is above the YBR. The NQ is below the YBR. So everybody with me on all this? Everybody. So far. There was one thing that you missed that I showed people. Let me show you. I showed it this morning too. You see how I have the two slingshots over here? Do you remember when I went on vacation, you had this issue when you had the ultimate slingshot down here at the bottom? Yeah, put some margin on the other side. It doesn't do it right here because they're putting it both on the right side. But when you add them on top of each other, when you move it up, it moves the one over here. But what you can do is go in here and pin to no scale on the ultimate slingshot, and that gets rid of it. You see? And I was worried that when you don't pin it to a scale that it might move the lines around, they might not show up in the right place. But I have both of them running over here, one pinned and one not pinned. And the blacks are right on top of each other, so it doesn't have any effect at all. That is one thing I just wanted to point that out. Because over here, you see, that's why I have these two slingshots going over here. One's pinned and one's not, and they're both on top of it. Exactly. Really? John B. I haven't talked to John B in a while. Crowns. Thank you. Hello, Johnny. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, John. All right, so we're still looking for this thing to move up. Now, let's look at it a little bit bigger. I didn't put that on top here. Let's put that on top, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. We almost have a trade coming up over here on the NQ, but not quite. It's got to go flat up here for it to get to the midpoint, where it'd be a good place to trade from. All right, it's got to go flat up there. Yeah, I switched that over to a 19 range. Yep, I did that partway through the morning session because we weren't getting any trades. And so we ended up with 71 ticks on the NQ this morning. All right, what I wanted to look at was the gold in a little bit bigger picture. If you crunch it all the way up like this, what is it really trying to do here? This high right over here, it's trying to get up to that high. So 61.8. Yeah, that's right here. That's the high. That was about the equivalent of that high back here. It already did it, so it's bouncing off a double top right here. Interesting spot. How far back was that? Was that just this morning? Yeah, it was just this morning. Okay. One thing I was looking at, this right here is the all-time high. You know, once I just put it on an annual to find that. So on the annual, that's what it came up with. That's on this contract on the annual. And so if we bump out here and we look at it this way, see we're pretty close to the high of the day right now on the ES. European market is what put that in to begin with. The European Open put that in to begin with, and then it's sold off coming into the Open, the US Open, and it's working its way back up. Yeah, I mean yeah, I know it's been taking a while here. I think I'm in exactly the right place, right? 59.7. I'm actually in. All right, I'm off by 2 ticks, but it's pretty good. It should be okay. You know, at a minimum, it should make it appear. Halfway up here is what I'm looking for, and then I'd be able to get my risk off the trade. I'd probably take some profit at that point. Yeah, you can. Yep, you sure can. You can. You go to settings and right here, choose candles. They implemented that about a year ago. No, I don't think so. I think all levels have that, I think. I'll do that again because I did it really fast. If you right click and you go to settings, then this is the symbol. Choose symbol. And it's right in here. Right. Over 100 million subscribers. Ninja. I'm afraid Ninja's, charting is the least of their concerns right now, I think. I think they've got charting way on the back burner. They got bought by the crypto company. And I'm afraid that they're going to not make it a priority. What was your stop on the gold trade? It should be a 15 tick stop. And I'm off by 2 ticks. I'm 2 ticks lower than the actual entry, I think, right? The entry should have been right here. Actually, yeah, I am. I'm off by 2 ticks. I'm 2 ticks higher than where the entry should have been. Oh, yeah, just stop at 10 ticks. Okay, yeah, it's a 15 tick stop. On the 9 range, it's 15 tick stop. On the 7 range, it's a 10 tick stop. That is why. And I'm still off by 2 ticks in my entry. If I had a 10 tick stop, I think I would have stopped out for sure. Yeah, I would have stopped out if I had a 10 tick stop. Did he not catch it? Oh, he's not using it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, well, when we had, back in the day, when we had DT Pro, I always used candlesticks on that. I always used candlesticks. I didn't use these things, open high low close bars, until we got the trading view, because at the time when we switched to trading view about 3 years ago, they didn't have candlesticks then. So I just had to get used to using this. Now I am used to using it, and I actually see things a lot cleaner, and it's clearer to me. Of course, I had to go from like 1.5 to 3.5 in my glasses. Just kidding. Okay, now I stuff out on that too. I was just kidding. I was actually at the store yesterday, and it had all those different things on the glasses pack, and I was going through them all, trying to see which ones going as far down until I couldn't see anymore. And even the slightest magnification did it for me. I could see again. I could see. I could read stuff. They helped me reading. Yeah, I'm at 2.0, but I think I could get away with 1.25. I just need a little bit of help. But hang on a second. Sorry, I had to step aside for just a second. All right. Yeah, you could be aggressive and take it here, or you could wait for the up close. There's not a lot of room. If you wait for the up close, there's not a lot of room to the swing high. It's too late to be aggressive now because it's already gone 4 ticks into profit, where you should have. But This, going back to all that stuff that I said a few minutes ago about being aggressive with, the two things down here. If you were in chop, this is one of those places where you would be aggressive and you would have bought the open of that bar, right? If you were in chop. Now, the prior leg length gave you a flat spot, so you don't really want to try that. When you have any flat spots, you don't want to be aggressive, right? You want to be aggressive when it's just popping up and down and it's getting like one bar and the overbought, one bar and the oversold. That indicates chop. Okay, so CS having a trade on an up close trade right here. Have a conservative trade on an up close. It doesn't have a lot of room to go though, so it's not a great looking trade. See, the swing high is right here. You'd be entering right there. Yeah, it doesn't. So right now, if you did take that, your stop would have gone to break even. You'd be out of break even right now. Or if I took that, my stop would have gone to break even. I'd be out of break even right now. Either one. If I took the aggressive one, I'd be out of break even. If I took the conservative one, I'd be out of break even. It just didn't look like a great spot to trade. You got 2 ticks out of it. Good. Okay, well that's good. All right. Sorry, the Marina called me right at the end there, and I'm in the middle of a boat crisis, and I wanted to make sure that they knew what I wanted them to do. All right. That is it then. We are at 131. So I'm going to wrap up this and let's just go over what we did today. We're up $905 a contract. So we're up 71 ticks on the NQ, 2 ticks on the Russell, 49 ticks on gold, and 4 ticks on the ES. Put us at 905. Today took 9 minutes and 3 trades to get to $1,000 a contract. And we took 21 trades on the month. In the 2 days so far, we're up $1,092. On the year though, we're up $156,557 with one contract. Right, that's one contract. We're up that much. That's pretty close to better than most other years. I think we had 1 year in 2022. We were up over 200 by the end of the year, but never this much at the middle of the year. And that's with one contract. The 2420 blueprint, we've worked 13.5 hours so far this year, getting the goal for the day. And if you did that, gross would be $64,127 right now. You'd be on your 7th contract. If you have not taken a free trial, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button, the credit card required. It's going to be to this page. Just fill it out. Okay, fill it out. TradingView is having a great sale on the annual fees right now. If you don't have the annual yet, it is 70% off of the premium. So if you're not an annual premium member, the premium is now as cheap as the essential. If you buy the premium for a year, it's as cheap as the essential normally is. So you skip right over the plus, and you had to put the premium, which is 8 contracts at once. You can make it look like this if you want to, and have 8 contracts going at once, or you can make it look like this. But
to all you YouTube folks, I'm sorry I had my mic turned off on you guys. So you didn't hear all my pithy remarks and comedy and
pithy remarks, yes.
All right, you done?
All right, yep, I'm done. I can pass back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in the studio way overlooking South America's largest city park. Wayne is ready.
Okay, recap of the morning session.
Today it took 9 minutes and 3 trades to get to $1,000 with 10 contracts on.
Good job. All right, guys, we covered all the markets in granular detail. If you missed it, about 30 minutes to an hour after I sign off, you can go to youtube.com/CFRN and watch it all in its entirety. Now, I was telling you that if you want to become a member, send an email to support@cfrn.net. Valerie will send you an info-packed email explaining everything it means to become a member. And if you are a veteran, say I am a veteran and I want to become a member, so that the link she sends you will have a little discount so that you know we appreciate your service. You're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day in an interactive environment. It's live trades in real time, real money, while you ask every question that pops into your head and trade along in your demo account so you can qualify to go live. On top of 2 hours of live training every trading day, you got private one-on-one mentoring at your request. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs, doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. It's just how markets work. You get the concierge trade alerts the second they're published every evening. Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you'll get the weekly trading zones. And once they're published Monday morning, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They do not change. And every Thursday afternoon, you'll get an invitation to the Members Only Workshop Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Since Friday's a holiday, we just might take tomorrow night off. We'll keep you updated. And last but not least, you're going to get the golden key that opens all the private channels in Telegram. We have public channels for folks on the trial, and we encourage you to ask questions in there so that our traders can have a conversation with you. You can ask them, how did it go for them? How long did it take them to catch on? Are they doing okay now? And we don't monitor that. We encourage you to talk to them because you probably don't, you might be hesitant to believe what Michael and I say because, well, we're the man. But just talk to our traders. They'll let you know whether it's a good deal or not. I'm telling you it's a good deal, but I think they'll back me up. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. Let's wrap it up with our good word for today. Yesterday, we talked about in order to love, you must forgive. Today, knowing when not to speak. Sometimes you just need to keep your mouth shut. My grandmother used to say, if you don't have anything good to say, keep your mouth shut. Proverbs 12:23. The wise don't make a show of their knowledge, but fools broadcast their foolishness. Someone else's need to know shouldn't determine your need to speak. When a friend of Jesus wanted to stop his arrest, Jesus said, do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? Matthew 26:53. When Jesus stood in Pilate's judgment hall, Pilate didn't have the power. Jesus did. Yet the Bible says that Jesus was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Isaiah 53:7. He just stood there and said nothing. Why? Because he was not on trial. Pilate was. Jesus knew his destiny, and more importantly, he knew his heavenly Father intimately. And when you know God, you can face anything with confidence and feel free to say nothing. Sometimes the wisest thing is to say, I don't have the answer right now, but I will think about it, pray about it, and get back to you. When people are anxious for answers, they will try to pressure you into speaking before you have all the facts or have had a chance to pray and consider the situation carefully. If you ask God, he will tell you what to say and when to say it. His promise is this: I have put my words in your mouth and covered you with the shadow of my hand. Isaiah 51:16. Pride says, don't just stand there, say something. Wisdom says, don't just say something, stand there. Quietly ask God for insight. One thought from God can solve the problem in a hurry. And that's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.